Hello everybody, my name is Hans Nagrath, your expert for all things real estate related, and today we're going to discuss one of my favorite topics, how you might be missing out on your dream home because you are not able to see the vision. I can't tell you how many times I've walked through a property with a buyer and we're looking at it and it's not being shown right. The paint was off, mismatching colors, the floors are beat up, the lighting is not uniform, and there's either no furniture, mismatched furniture, and the home just feels cold, empty, and hard to visualize how this could ever be a home. And it totally makes sense. If you're a first-time home buyer, if you're not seeing these places in and out every single day, when you go into a cold space that just seems very mismatched, it's very easy for you to think that this is something that I could never live in. But I can't stress this enough. There are so many things that you can do that are not major upheavals that can make such a difference. Just repainting a house, refinishing the floors dramatically changes the whole entire vibe of the house. Not to mention, especially if you're looking at homes that are empty with no furniture in it, especially in the colder months, and you walk in, it's 55 degrees in there and it looks empty and barren and it's cold and the home's heart is just not beating. That right there can automatically turn off any buyer because psychologically it is harder to envision yourself living there when it's not set up as a home. That's why homes that sell for the most are the best homes are owners that are living there, maybe with kids that are showing what that lifestyle looks like. So let's start with figuring out how much work a potential home needs. So if we're focusing on the best and highest impact on a house, we're talking about lighting changes, refinishing the floors or new floors, and painting. Now, if these are the only changes that are really needed off the bat on a home, that is an easy win because realistically, you're talking about maybe a month of work to completely change the whole entire vibe, style, feel of the home. And this is why when I see a place with a property for the first time, I always want to start in the basement because that is going to tell me exactly how much work a house really is going to need. In New England, we have a lot of fieldstone brick foundations, and they were built like ships. They're built to last 100 plus years. They're incredible foundations, but if they are not well kept over decades, it can start to deteriorate the whole entire feel of the home and the structure of the home. So we want to focus on the bones. We really want to focus on how good the bones are and how much heavy lifting is going to be done before you can get into squeezing the fruit on the cosmetic stuff. So if we go down to the basement, if we're seeing a fieldstone foundation that's bulging, that all of the piers, the brick piers are deteriorated, they're holding up the main beam, if we're not seeing enough columns for support and that's impacting the entire slope of the flooring, now we're seeing, okay, this is really not a cosmetic fix. Even though those problems can be fixed, this might be too much of a project for us to focus on. Or let's say we go downstairs and we see there's knob and tube everywhere. It's an underserviced panel for the electrical supply of the house. Now we're starting to uncover the wires to see there is going to be a lot more work than just those cosmetic things. But if we go down there and the foundation is very flat, you have proper columns to support, and maybe it could use some dry lock and repointing, maybe $10,000 to $20,000 to make the basement feel pristine and just seal up the gaps, that is definitely worth spending that money because then you can focus on the highest impact, highest return type of investments like the floors, painting, lighting, those things. And that is what you really want to find the difference in these homes. Because if you're seeing a home, so many times I have shown homes that have an amazing foundation. Everything is very clean in the basement, but everything is mismatched and wonky. And if someone came in there and either refinished the floors, replaced the floors, painted, and just updated some of the lighting, it would be a night and day difference. In an area where inventory is super limited, and the nuance in these areas and neighborhoods is so extreme that you have to look at the real non-negotiables. Those are ceiling height, layout, how much sunlight is coming in, what are those exposures on the windows, for condos in the city, Back Bay, South End, Beacon Hill, or Cambridge, what are the exposures looking out to? How much windows do you have? How big are the windows? What is the floor plan? How functional is it that every square footage is being utilized? Because we can see in so many situations, buyers will say, I need at least 1,000 square feet minimum. But if you have the layout, windows, ceiling height, all of those things lining up, an 800 square foot unit could feel bigger, brighter, and better than a 1,200 square foot unit. So these are the things that we really want to focus on because they cannot be changed. And with a single family, you want to make sure that the lot is good, ceiling height is good, that you have as much windows as possible to maximize natural light, and a bonus space to expand, whether that be the basement or an attic or a potential for a dormer. So these are the things that you really want to focus on. And you have to evaluate whether you're looking at a condo, a single family, or multifamily. Are these updates going to take 1 to 2 months, or are these going to be 8-month money pits? And that is why I take a very deep and thorough analysis of each home I walk through with a potential buyer to make sure that they're very aware of the difference between the two. A question you need to ask yourself when you're potentially passing up on a house that checks all those boxes on the things that you can't change: location, layout, sunlight, ceiling height, but you're thinking it might be too much work. You need to really do the investigation to see, is this truly going to be a fixer-upper money pit, or am I passing on this house along with everybody else because no one can see the vision? Now, don't get me wrong. People are busy. You're working full-time. You have family. You have so many things going on. No one really has the time to manage a big project. But by taking that extra time and effort, whether that's walking through with a contractor, doing the initial steps to make sure that you know exactly what you're getting into, before passing up on the house, you need to really make sure you're doing the right due diligence to understand what the total project might be looking like. Because you don't want to pass up on a house that you see 10 years down the line, they made those minor changes and captured all of the resale and appreciation benefit for it. Because the reality is, the best appreciation in resale comes from those buyers who saw the vision when they bought the place, made it into a home that told a story when they came to sell. Because every home is a beating heart, and the ones that tell the best story sell for the most and the most sought after. Remember, most of these homes aren't perfect on day one. They become perfect once you put your own stamp on them. One of my real estate superpowers is that I can see the vision in almost any home. There are some homes that I truly am like, there's no vision here, but I can walk through any space and totally be able to visualize in my head what is the highest and best use for this home, how to get a certain place shining like it's never done before. And I love to walk through that with my potential buyers. And of course, everyone's budget is differently, but with what you have allocated to a project, you need to make sure you're maximizing those funds. So beyond the bones, beyond the light updates that we were talking about, refinishing the floors and painting, some other changes that make such a massive difference is that first impression. Landscaping can go such a long way on a single family, and even an entryway in a condo building can go such a long way. Something that are pretty easy lifts, like painting and lighting in a common entryway and some nice carpet runners. That is the first impression that any buyer is going to see. That is starting to tell the story of the building and the unit. So you want to make sure that when you're looking at either of these places to see the feasibility of changing that, because the reality is, from the first moment that you lay eyes on a place to the moment that you finish the tour, it is a story. And each thing that you notice and see tells that story of the home. So you want to make sure that when you're looking, you don't miss the house because you missed the vision. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, drop a comment if you want to see any other content, and stay tuned because we're going to be dropping some awesome before and after videos. So I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.